Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do yet another scary Skinwalker encounter video here for your listening pleasure. Normally I space these out a little bit more when it comes to videos and I don't do back-to-back stuff, but when I was reading this information here, it is so good when it comes to the scariness and the creepiness associated with this encounter. I just knew I had to share it here. Plus, it took place at a specific location. You know how much I love that stuff when it comes to talking about any subject on my channel. And once again, it comes from the reddit.com website. This time, though, from a subreddit called Paranormal. And it also features another encounter with some tourists. So those of you that are planning on traveling out somewhere near any kind of Navajo Nation or Navajo land, keep in mind that you may have something along these lines when it comes to an encounter. But it's a user by the name of A Very Living Me, and they titled it as I might have had a possible encounter with a skinwalker. So let's go ahead and let's share this tale here, and then once again I'll give my own thoughts on this particular story afterward. So here's essentially what they have to state. I'm not that great of a storyteller, but I'll just quickly write what happened. We were staying at a Hogan AirBNB on the Navajo Nation close to Monument Valley, and there were several very friendly, calm dogs roaming around. I and my friends, one of whom is deathly afraid of dogs, had no problem being with them or petting them. And we had a gorgeous view of Monument Valley right from our door, and it was cold yet cozy. That night, I needed to use the bathroom, and I opened the door to the dogs going absolutely nuts. Now, there's a difference between a dog barking at just whatever, a person walking by, for example, and then there was this total flight or flight response. One of the dogs ran up to me looking anxious and glancing into the desert behind the Hogan. It came close and then walked back to look into the desert behind the Hogan, and its fur stood up and it suddenly looked more like a wolf. And then it took off straight into the desert at full speed, growling and barking at a huge shadow that ran away from the dog. There aren't many huge animals in the area, maybe some deer and horses, maybe some cattle, but this was bigger. And so I didn't stick around long enough to check what it was. I was pretty shaken by what I saw. I found some fresh wolf/mountain lion prints and some hoof prints, probably from a horse, outside the Hogan the next morning. The dog's prints were much smaller. And so our host said we might have seen a skinwalker. Now I'd like to believe it was a horse. It was dark anyhow, but the actual host didn't want to talk about it too much. The guides we met later on also said the same thing and then kept it at that. And so later that day, one friend suddenly fell ill on a tour of another Hogan and almost fainted. That never happened before in her life. The guide said she probably had some bad spirits attached to her, and so she recovered quickly after stepping outside. Anyways, that's all. It was a really wonderful trip overall. I'd go again if I could. And then that's it. That's everything that this user, A Very Living Me, stated in their encounter. So lots of good stuff to talk about here. For starters, as I mentioned a minute ago, it has a very specific location. In this case, a Hogan AirBNB. Never heard of that before. I had to look up some of the info on it. In fact, you're looking at a picture of one now. Isn't it neat? It looks like it's like a recreation of what Native Americans lived in way back when, or maybe some of you even do now when it comes to their living situations. And the key difference is it's there, right there on Navajo land, right knee deep within Skinwalker territory. So even though he was mentioning it's close to Monument Valley, how about that? I was just talking about that the other video or so, right? That's in this case with this B&B also being there. The other user was something along the lines of a hotel, and then the other one was a parking lot area. But no, in this case, it was a Hogan AirBNB. There would be something interesting to stay at. Imagine staying at one of these. Obviously, of course, without anything bad happening skinwalker-wise, but otherwise being able to do something like this, I would gladly do it. But then let's talk about the actual encounter itself. Imagine that. Imagine opening your door at night. These friendly dogs that were previously just a-okay as they were roaming around and allowing everyone to pet them. Now, here they were looking at something out there in the darkness. As I mentioned in the past, I've been in areas that are out there by the desert, by the Nevada area at night. It is pitch black out there. I cannot give as much emphasis as possible how dark it is out there. Like everything is just black. And the only thing that you see out there is the night sky, which helps illuminate some, but not much. So imagine this dude's response when it came to looking outwards, seeing that the dogs were essentially going bat crazy when it comes to whatever it was out there. They were friendly at the beginning during the day, but now they were on, as he called it, fight or flight mode, and then looking more like a wolf, and then they charged. That part involving this giant shadow running away from the dog, that's the one that got me. That's the one I wanted to talk about here, primarily with this video, because good Lord, imagine seeing something like that out there. Just suddenly, whatever it was probably creeping down, like it was out there, but it was down within the brush or within some kind of tree-like area, somewhere around there. And then the sudden dog was able to come upon it, and then it caused it to move out, and then you see a giant shadow running away. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that would truly freak me out, just like it was freaking out this guy. As he was stating, he was pretty shaken by what he saw. And then the other thing that stood out was this. Besides the weird set of mountain lion prints and hoof prints and so on, was the fact that nobody there wanted to talk about it. Neither the host, who had mentioned that they thought it was a skinwalker but then shut up afterward, and then the other one involving the tour guide, who also said along the same things, but again wanted to stay as quiet as possible. That tells you about the impact associated with these things out there in the Navajo Nation. And then the fact that one of the other parties fell ill as well. Isn't that crazy when it comes to that? The guide stating that they may have had some bad spirits attached to them. Just goes to show again what kind of craziness can be out there. There they are, basically around that area, trying to be as good tourists as possible, trying to enjoy the scenery and then be able to stay, in this case, in that beautiful Hogan AirBNB. But then lo and behold, they have this that was watching them the whole time during the nighttime. And if it was just purely by happen chance with this dude going out there to the bathroom, who knows what could have happened elsewhere with regards to that encounter. Although I imagine that those dogs, if they were barking and barking and barking, as he stated, fight or flight response, they would have woken up somebody at that point, and then they would have had that situation alerted to them much earlier. But that's pretty much it. That's everything as far as this pretty unique, pretty scary encounter happening at a Navajo land. So if anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed, then please post those comments below. Anybody there happen to be at a Hogan AirBNB before? Let me know what it's like, and let me know if, besides the scary stuff, if it truly is something worth going to, because that would be pretty neat to be able to stay on Navajo land like that in one of these beautiful recreations. So, all right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.